Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Genuinely Interested podcast. My name is Roy Bensby. I'm your host, and this week we have a very different podcast, if I can say that. A very interesting guy, Jack Sim, who is the founder of the WTO. Nope, not that WTO, the World Toilet Organization. It's a comical thing, obviously, but it's actually a very serious topic and issue. There's, I think he said 2.5 billion people on this planet that lack proper sanitation. And it's one of the biggest killers on earth. So, lack of toilets, lack of proper sanitation, lack of clean water, those are all big issues that for some reason don't really get the recognition they deserve, probably because it's really poor people in developing nations. Unlike other topics, it just doesn't get the same news coverage. It's not as interesting, but yeah, for whatever the reason that it just doesn't. And he's trying to bring it to the foreground of news, conversation, and he's doing a good job. He does it in a very comical way, always using humor, because this is a very awkward and uncomfortable thing to talk about a lot of times, toilets and shit and farts. And he just very nonchalantly says all these things around other people or when he gives talks. So he's a very interesting character. I had a lot of fun talking to him. You'll see that at some point during the podcast we get derailed a bit. We go off topic and into politics, like almost not every podcast, but a good amount. It just seems like the world is very political right now, and it's almost a new religion. Religion doesn't even get as hostile as politics does nowadays. And while I don't agree with a lot of the things he said politically, I do think that basically I try to keep us on the topic, which is sanitation, toilets, talking about him. We only had 1 hour, and I didn't want to waste the whole time debating politics and superpowers and democracies, because that's not the topic of the podcast. And I feel like that's something that could easily happen on every conversation, on every podcast, especially nowadays where everything's hyper partisan and we're very divided on just about every single topic on this earth. So what I did like that we ended up discussing and was one of the essential things that he said is just be a better person, love people, care for people, give people the dignity and the proper healthcare and facilities that we all need. Some of these things should be a human right, but they are not. So again, great conversation with regards to some of the things he said about the US. It almost seems like he's painting it out to be some evil superpower, which I don't think it is. Especially in comparison to China, I don't even see how you can compare those two on any level. I think the current president here is a blip on a larger time frame that will not bode well for American history. But the beautiful thing is that it changes every 4 or 8 years versus China. You have one guy and he's going to be in power for the rest of his life. And I don't think that's something that we should aspire to. Again, I don't want to start listing out good, bad on each country. I do think everything's a work in progress. We are better in certain things now than we were 40 or 50 years ago. And the same for China, same for Singapore, same for most countries. More and more people are coming out of poverty. More and more people have proper sanitation. And just generally, the trajectory of humankind is going into a better place. Sure, there are definitely a lot of problems with wildlife decimation and habitats that we're taking away from wildlife, and climate change on the rise and sea level on the rise. And as far as those things, those are definitely issues. As far as also maybe division, political division, and hyper partisanship that's happening right now, that's probably at an all-time high, which is unfortunate. I blame Twitter. So there are a lot of issues, but I think overall, as a species, we are evolving and learning from mistakes that we've done. And like he said, he has a lot of faith and trust in the younger generation. I do too, I guess. It depends on what topic we're talking about. I think they're definitely more aware of environmental issues, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest topics. That's something that's always at the top of my mind. So I definitely agree with that. Guys, go check out the documentary. It's called Mr. Toilet, The World's Number Two Man. Very catchy title. I stopped as soon as I saw it on Amazon, and that's why essentially I brought him on the podcast, because after watching the documentary, I'm like, I definitely want to talk to this guy. He's hilarious. He's really smart, really good business guy, and just some guy, just someone with a conscience. He really just wants to leave the world a better place. So check out this episode, and this week's guest is Jack Sim. I hope you enjoy it.
The Genuinely Interested Podcast.
Hey Jack, how you doing?
Very good. Here in Singapore,
How is Singapore now?
well, we just came out from a lockdown and people are going shopping and slowly life's getting back to normal.
So everything's open?
People are encouraged to work from home where possible.
Mhm.
And I think we need the economy to be moving. So it's starting slowly to get to normal.
Yeah. And Singapore wasn't hit too bad, right? As far as numbers, it's not like the rest of, it's not like China or some other places.
No, we're a very small country and it's a very well managed country. We were at first one of the best in the world, and then we forgot about the foreign workers dormitory, and it shot up, and now everything's under control again. I think we'll be all right.
All right. Yeah, I hope so, because a lot of places seem to have it under control, and then there's talks about the second wave, and even New Zealand, they took it down to zero, and now I think they said there's one or two. So it seems like it's almost impossible to completely make it go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you grew up, what's your background?
So I grew up in Singapore, 1957. It was a very poor country. In 1965, we became an independent country. The British went home, and our GDP was 500 US dollar per capita, same as Kenya. And we grew up seeing the country turn from third world to first world, and now is one of the top five highest per capita in the world. So it's an economic miracle, and we are managed by one ruling party since 1959 until now, no change. We go for
Really?
election every 5 years and we elect back the same guy. Not the same guy, but the same group, the same party.
But are there different parties, or is just one party what are the options?
There are maybe about eight other parties, but mostly they're very fragmented. Never had experience before, so everybody saw the life is pretty good and didn't want to change. So normally they get about 70% of the votes, and on a very bad year they get 60% of the votes.
Wow. Wow. I can only think here in the US if that would happen, because here after two elections, obviously you have to step down. But I mean, I guess if you have a working formula, and I mean, what they've done in Singapore is pretty much an economic miracle, going from one of the worst to one of the best in 60 years?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I think it's been a very well managed country. Now we don't know because America is not friends with China, and we need both the country to trade. And anyway, we have a lot of money, so the country has about 1 trillion US dollar in reserve. So we'll get by.
Okay. And you're the founder of the WTO. which is the World Toilet Organization, not to be confused with the World Trade Organization. And can you explain a little bit about that, how you came up with the name, what the WTO does?
So in the world, there's about 2.6 billion people who don't have a proper toilet. And this is unimaginable, but nobody wants to talk about it. So I thought, because it's a taboo subject, people don't talk about it. So I started to play a pun on the World Trade Organization and call ourselves the WTO, the World Toilet Organization. The media love it very much, and I use humor to bring attention to this very serious subject because every year you still have about 2 million people dying of diarrhea, and just because they didn't drink, don't have a clean water, and the shit is going into the river, and people don't have a proper toilet, and flies are spreading the diseases, visiting the poop and then visiting the food of children. And it's just unimaginable. All this death and morbidity that can be saved just because we don't want to talk about it. So I created the World Toilet Organization in 2001. And the day that we found it was called 19th of November. So we call that day World Toilet Day. And 13 years later, the United Nations General Assembly, 193 countries adopted our founding day as the official UN World Toilet Day. So right now it is the official date, and everybody is commemorating, celebrating this day, and using it to change public policy and building toilets. So we're very happy that we broke the taboo, and now Prime Minister Modi has built 100 million toilets in India, and President Xi is the toilet champion in China, building a lot of toilets for rural area now, and especially rural school. And the tourism toilet in China has suddenly improved to be so clean that it was just unbelievable, because some years ago, China toilet was supposed to be very, very dirty, and suddenly you go to any tourist toilet and you see it's like Japan. So big transformation. We're very happy with the work that we are doing.
I'm so glad you mentioned Japan. I was in Japan for the first time earlier this year in February, I think. And I was just blown away. Their toilets are, I'm from the US, and, every place here has a toilet, but it's just it's a standard regular toilet. In Japan, it's like a toilet from the future. It has all these buttons and things coming out and water and sprays and heat. I'm like, I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't have this. This is absolutely amazing. I was blown away. I couldn't believe the level of sophistication and technology that they invested in toilets. It's everywhere. It's not like only in nice places. It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the Japanese has the highest quality of life anywhere on the planet. They have everything done to perfection. Toilets, food hygiene. You see, they celebrate the craftsman. And it's not just chasing money. If you produce quality, you are a celebrity. Even if you are a tea ceremony master or a wood carver or making a samurai sword, you don't earn that much, but you are a sensei, which means a teacher. And they celebrate the teacher. You see, in the West, they celebrate money. And that is where the human soul is just diluted.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously live in Singapore, but you've spent time both in the West and in the East. Is that one of the main things that you see a differences, like the what
Yeah.
they celebrate in the East and then in the West?
You see, it all goes down to folklore, right? When you have philosopher, ancient sage who teach human values, and then this grandmother passed down to the children, and every generation were told about philosophy, about how to live in community, how to care for others, how we are not as important as our community, our country. our village, and how to be a bit humble. And the individualism is catching, it's like a disease, but we used to be not having this. Individualism is something that was learned by the Westerner coming to Asia and says that screw the village, you are the most important person. And I think this is not so good. It's better that the community comes first.
Mm. It's interesting. Yeah, because that is something that in the West, the individualism and exceptionalism for achievements done by the individual is something they put a large emphasis on. But you're saying in a large part of Asia, maybe not so much anymore, but definitely in the past, it was more about the community, more about
Yeah.
being
We're
working
losing it
together
very,
as a group. Yeah.
we're losing it very fast, but I got the feeling that the people are now coming into ecosystem again because they realize that being alone, being selfish is no fun.
Mhm.
Because what's the use of trying to be awesome all by yourself? So I
Yeah.
think communities are starting to come back, and the internet is does help a lot. People can share a lot, and I feel good with the young people. The young people are not as selfish as let's say my generation and the generation after me. Yeah.
Oh,
The the
really?
the millennials and the young people, I feel so good about them. They want they want a good society. They don't want all this strong individualism. They care about the planet. They care about black people. They care about all these other people. Um, LGBT people. They do not discriminate as badly as the older generations.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah. I
course,
mean,
the
we're
very old one, they're very good also. So after the
it's just
baby
that gap
boomers,
in between. Yeah.
yeah. After the baby boomers, everybody start to become a little bit more selfish, but the young people are starting to become pretty good. I'm quite encouraged by that.
That's awesome. So, before you started WTO, what were you doing? What
I
led you to start the WTO, essentially?
yeah, I was a very bad student. I couldn't study very well because I was a very restless child, and the though I don't understand why are they teaching me all these theories. I want to get to action quickly. So I didn't do well in school. I never went to university, and I saved pre-university and university. So I saved 6 years, and that gave me a very early start to do business. And then I realized that business is actually so simple. You can make money as long as you can find a problem. So started 16 businesses, uh, attracting investors, and we started the Australian International School in Singapore from 32 students to 3,500 students. And then we started to be real estate developer. I started the biggest roof tile factory in Malaysia, and then a brick factory, and investment, trading, everything. So by the time I was 40, I start to wonder what is the purpose of making money. I just realized that we're not really spending dollars, we're spending time. And every day is one day that is gone and never come back. And eventually you finish spending time and then you die. So I realized, wow, the real currency of life is not money, but minutes and
Time.
hours and days. And so I started to make a countdown on my phone till my 80th birthday, which I think most people die around that time. So I have 40 years, which was 14,600 days. And every day is one day less. So just check the phone to tell you today how many days I have before I die on my 80th birthday.
But
And
how do you know? Maybe you'll get to 100.
yeah, but it's really exactly today is 6,100 day before I die on the 5th of March 2037. So can you imagine less than 1,000 weeks, less than
Yeah.
1,000 Sundays, I'll be a dead man, right? And that's why knowing when you die, at least you budget it, is very, very motivating because then I treasure every day. I treasure relationship. I go and tell my wife I love her several times a day and enjoying it because I appreciate the relationship. And everything becomes nice because I know I'm going to die. Well, in the past, we're always so scared. We say, no, don't talk about death. It's such a bad omen. And actually, no. When you know you're going to die, you treasure life, you cherish every moment, you don't quarrel with people, and you love the world. And you do good because you want to spend the time more usefully.
Yeah, that's why a lot of times I've talks with people about religion, and religion is all about the afterlife and what are you going to do after life. And I just feel like there's so like it's right. It's I agree with you. There's our time here is so limited. We have to maximize our time on this earth. Forget about what could potentially happen in an afterlife, if it's there, if it's not there. But our time here is so limited. So what happens when you get to 80 and you're perfectly healthy, and then you have another 10, 15, 20
If
years?
you live on bonus time, it's okay. It's all right to get some bonus. But I think afterlife is a distraction because you are now living in this life. Why don't you treasure this one and make good use of it and go start helping people and be a nice guy? But if you
Exactly.
want to have an afterlife, you're still selfish because you're thinking of yourself all the time. My afterlife. Forget about your afterlife. Look at this life and use this life to do something good and leave the world a better place. And if you have an afterlife, it's a bonus. But do you know that the afterlife people doesn't relate to this life even if it's there? So it's actually a two different life. It's almost like a two different person. So forget about afterlife. It's
Yeah.
just somebody who promise you an afterlife so that they can get some donation from you every Sunday. That's not really something to look forward to.
Yeah, I was having this yesterday. My wife and I were on a hike, and I had this conversation with her because here in we're in New England, so it's in the east coast of the U.S. and there's Lyme disease, there's ticks when you go hiking, there's bears, there's all these different things, and I was making a joke. I was like, everything on this earth is trying to kill you. You leave your apartment, there's cars, you can get run over, there's all these different things, something can fall on you. You go hiking, there's ticks, there's Lyme disease, there's bears. If you kind of focus on your energy on all the time on those things, oh, what could go wrong, instead of just, what, that's life, let me enjoy it, let me do the max that I can on this earth with the time I have, rather than focus on what could happen if I die or something can hurt me. I think that's a much better way to live. But unfortunately, a lot of people are just focusing on the bad all the time. Oh, this is dangerous, I shouldn't go here, this is bad. You know
So
what I
then you
mean?
live a whole life of fear.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're an old man. So what's the purpose of living a whole life of fear? You have to live a life of love.
Mhm.
You see, life is there for you to enjoy. And the highest level of enjoyment is when you love other people. Because when you love other people, you create a lot of positive chemicals in your body. If you're thinking of yourself, actually you become very miserable. Every time you try to be selfish, toxicity happen in your body. But if you are loving others, loving your children, hugging your dog, hugging your wife, so much nice feeling is flowing in your body. And why don't you do that with everybody? Because that is quality life. Quality life is not about buying a Ferrari. That's just to show off to other people. You don't need a Ferrari. You need love. And you need to give love.
That could be the title of the next book. You don't need a Ferrari. All you need is love. I like that.
Yeah, there's some Beatles songs that all you need is love.
Yeah. So, I watched the documentary that you put out, and I loved it. And we'll talk about how that came to be in a little bit later. But in the documentary, it felt very organic. Like your employees in the WTO, they kind of expressed what they were thinking. Unlike maybe a few other documentaries where it feels very scripted, this felt very organic. And in the documentary, everyone called you a dreamer. But I think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be a dreamer because you're essentially creating things that don't exist yet. And all the time, entrepreneurs are called dreamers. But again, like they just, if you're not a dreamer, you're not going to be able to create things into existence that people haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, dreamers is it's fun, It's like an artist, right? You visualize the picture and then you paint it, right? Or along the way you change your mind and some accidents of colors happen and you're very happy with the end result, or you paint another one. So it's important to dream because we have to fantasize so that we can grow larger and larger and our mind space open up. And if you dream to make society better, people get toilet, people get healthy, and whatever you do, if people benefit from your work, I think it's worth the living. If you can stop thinking about what others think of you, because when you die, nobody remember you, and if they remember you, you don't know because you are dead, right? So the most important thing is not whether you are famous or powerful or rich, but that you use your time usefully and live a life that you feel purposeful and have meaning. I think once you are able to find meaning, you just need some food every day and a bed to sleep, and that's all. The rest are not important.
Very minimalist. In the documentary and even in this conversation, like you're and naturally a funny guy, and I think that helps you very much because the topic that you're trying to talk about is very awkward for a lot of people, even especially probably even more when you talk to females than guys, because guys, they tend to like to talk about toilets and bathroom and shit and stuff like that, and women not as much probably. So have you found that it's been helpful for you to bridge that gap and talk to people about this topic?
Yeah, so long ago when I first started, I was wondering how can I do a good job as a Mr. Toilet. So guess what? I searched out another guy who is even more funny than me, and his name is Mr. Condom. He, he's in Thailand. If you search Google Mr. Condom, you will find his name is Michai, and he's a senator. And I went to Senator Michai and I say, how did you promote condom to the brothels and to all this massage parlor and all that? And he went there to blow balloons and tell the girls that condom is a girl best friend. And he told me, if you can make people laugh and you don't mind people laughing at you, you will be able to catch their attention. And when they laugh at you, they are listening to you. So I say, great lesson. So I went out there to make myself look like a clown. And I don't mind saying all kind of strange things and dressing up in the toilet or dancing at Hard Rock Cafe in a toilet costume. It's fine. For me, I'm not important. The most important is people start to become aware about toilets and they start talking about it. The moment they start talking about it, they can't stop. And my job is done and they carry on and they broke the taboo and they tell their friends. So having this movie called Mr. Toilet, the world number two man, is available in Amazon Prime, and everybody can watch, and then they will learn that to be an activist, it's not so easy.
Yeah.
You have to travel so much, have to leave your family at home, miss your wife, children, But on the other hand, it's very fulfilling. And then at the same time, the politician and the bureaucrats are wasting your time, and then your NGO is running out of money, and your board members are resigning. So all kind of problems happen, but you never stop. You just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone definitely go check it out. It's on Amazon. That's where I watched it. It's free if you have Prime. And for me, I'm I'm an adolescent when it comes to like any poop humor stuff like that. I love it. It always makes me laugh. And as soon as I saw the title, I was like, okay, I want to watch that. And then when you learn that it's about a serious topic, it's not just fun and games. Then it's like, oh, okay, that's even more interesting because what lures you in essentially is the title, right? It's almost like a clickbait title. But when you learn about it, it's like, okay, it's one of those things but you don't really know. Like I didn't know the extent of it. So yeah, maybe let's talk a little bit about toilet sanitation. You basically in the doc you say a toilet is a sanctuary. It's a spiritual place, which I'm sure a lot of men would agree with. But can you explain why?
So when you go to the toilet, you're usually not very happy because you're uncomfortable. And after you come out of the toilet, you are so happy because you are relieved. So the toilet is a place that creates happiness for everyone. And why can't you talk about it? You go to the toilet 6 to 8 times a day. If you add all the time that you spend in the toilet, that is 3 entire years of your life non-stop in the toilet. You spend 3 years in the toilet per lifetime. And so good toilet culture is good quality of life. If you can talk about eating and drinking, you must talk about what happened after it comes out. And when you don't talk about it, then the problem accumulates, right? Today, if you look at the American toilet cubicle, it has no privacy and nobody talks about it. If you're walking past, washing your hands, you see everybody's underwear, and you can actually look from the gap into the cubicle and see the guy actually shitting over there. I mean, this is almost like half open defecation. And I would really think that the design of the American cubicle is so outdated. People need privacy. You cannot have such a big gap at the bottom, right? In Japan, it's only like 4 inches. In other countries, like 6 inches. And here you have like 2 feet. And and I think the American privacy is not respected. So we should redesign this kind of thing. And then also the ergonomics of the toilet. You have to make it such that it's very, very easy to clean and to be dry. So the World Toilet Organization is now setting World Toilet standards. And we're going to publish this 1 year later. Right now, all the professors in the world who are expert in toilet are joining this study. And I think we have to have very good toilet culture. The toilet is a sanctuary. You feel safe. You go there. And when you come out, you don't have to feel so sheepish like you've done something wrong. No. Going to the toilet is just a joyful thing.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm so glad you mentioned the design in the American toilets. The amount of times I thought this when you going into even in the airport or anywhere public where I don't know it's you'll have like a urine or maybe two urinals and then one stall. And the stall is like you said, there's a gap in the middle, there's a gap on the bottom where you can see like knees to bottom. And once you're inside, you're like I feel like everyone can see it. It's so uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
everyone outside is uncomfortable as well because nobody wants to look at that. And it's such a weird, I have no idea how they design it. And as far as like the toilets, before I went to Japan, I just thought a toilet was a toilet. And after going to Japan, I was like, everyone, it's caveman like. What we're using here in the US and in the rest of the Western world, it's the Japan is literally light years ahead when it comes to sanitation and toilet. It's just unbelievable how different it is.
Correct. And I'm now helping Japan to promote their toilet culture because Japanese have a lot of things that are famous for, like sushi and manga, their cartoons, comics, and music and everything. But they also have very, very good toilet culture, best in the world. So I'm going to promote Japanese toilet culture because the West didn't enjoy the toilet as much as the Japanese. So you have to
No.
learn from them.
And they also have like an audio option on the toilets, which is a big thing. I never even thought of this, but it's, sound is a big thing, obviously, when going to the toilet, especially if it's a public one, there's other people around. And they just have an audio option where it's a music or there's something that basically drowns out the noise that you're creating. And it's
Because
amazing.
Japanese are very shy.
Yeah.
So especially the women. So they used to mask the fart sound while they're defecating by flushing the toilet so that the flushing sound will drown out the farting sound. So Toto invented this recording that you don't have to waste water. You just push the button and the flushing sound comes out. But I think that if you make pipe music in the toilet, that will mask the sound and it's also sound better. You don't have to do that. Just play pipe music in the toilet. It'll be good.
Here they put the sink on. They'll just put the sink on as something to set to drown out the noise. So as far as countries that lack sanitation and toilets, who are the leaders who need it the most?
I think the Indian subcontinent has a lot of people, so that is very lacking. And also in the world, 4.5 billion people's shit is not treated. That means people might have a toilet and they flush it, but it goes to the river, goes to the lake, it goes to the sea. And I think untreated sewage is a big pollution problem. So I think this is serious. And Latin America, we go to Brazil, 50% of the shit is not treated. So we help them go to Senate hearing and we create the World Toilet Summit. All the experts come together in Brazil and we managed to work with them to pass a law that private company can now invest in public water company on their sewage treatment. And now they are on their way to attract investment and treat their shit. So I think that a lot of countries like Africa, they have they need toilets, and I think we have to price the externality of not having toilet. Not having toilet costs more in terms of diseases and loss of productivity and loss of footman day than having toilet. So can you imagine if you go to school, you are a girl, adolescent girl, you go to school and you are having your period and there's no place to change sanitary napkin and the boys are looking at you, then you drop out of school and then they don't get education. So not having toilet has a lot of repercussion for adolescent girls. And eventually, if you're not educated, you will go on the poverty spiral. So this is toilet is so important for health, for education, for future career, livelihood, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a report recently. I think it was in the Lancet that concluded that poor water, sanitation, and a lack of safe drinking water take a greater human toll than war, terrorism, and weapons of mass destruction combined. And in India, 90%, and I think this was in the documentary, 90% of surface water in India is contaminated. 1.5 million kids die annually from poor sanitation. I mean, these are some unbelievable stats that you don't really hear about in the news.
Yeah, this is the problem because you see, when a disease is killing poor people, nobody cares, right? But if you see how many COVID deaths uh, in the world up till today, how many people? I think it's kind of like
500,000.
500,000 people died.
Mhm.
But before 500,000 people died, even when it's like 80,000, 90,000 people died, the whole world closed down. So why is it that when 2 million people die of diarrhea every year, nobody cares? And I can give you some more bigger number. 9 million people die of hunger every year and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then when diseases can spread to rich and middle class, suddenly everybody cares. So I think the world is very unfair. We should treat all deaths as important and we should think about a life as a life. And COVID has shown us that we discriminate it so badly. Yeah. And you know what's the outfall, the fallout of COVID is that more people are dying of hunger now
Yeah.
than dying of the disease. The
Well,
economic problem that it creates is just terrible.
yeah. But even yeah, the economy is always going to be first. Even now in COVID, right? If COVID were to kill babies and not mostly older people or people with pre-existing conditions or smokers, I think we would treat it maybe differently. But what we're doing is saying, it doesn't kill. It's not as an efficient of a killer as we thought it was. So let's just let people go out and take some minimal precautions so we can keep the economy up and running. Um, I think there's always going to be a price on human life, and we're always going to try to make the economy run and grow GDPs rather than maybe putting the putting humans first.
You see, if GDP is more important than human life, then you are the virus. You have a virus inside your head. It's not COVID. It's
Yeah,
just stupidity.
yeah. I don't know. It's a weird thing that people have. It's countries and governments. For them, I just think that it's always going to be economy first before people. Unfortunately, I think that's the reality. Maybe it'll change with time. I hope it does. But right now, we're seeing this all over. They're just letting people go out in the streets because of whatever political affiliation that they're with, right? If you see on the right, they're letting them come together in Oklahoma, and on the left, they're letting them go out to protest. And the virus doesn't know political affiliation. The virus will attack everyone. But unfortunate, yeah, it's there's a lot of politics in this as well.
Yeah, the people shouldn't follow these politicians.
Yeah.
If they're going to commit suicide just by doing that, they're silly.
So what are the big hurdles to get proper sanitation to the poor? Is it like you said, politicians, government, bureaucracy? How do we change this?
It's the same as a cell phone. The poor didn't have money, and then when the cell phone came, suddenly all the poor have a cell phone. So where did they get the money?
Yeah.
I mean, did the money drop from the sky? No. When they need to have a cell phone, they suddenly start to become entrepreneurial. They start to work harder. They earn some extra money and they get a phone. And they also have money to charge the phone $2, $4 a month, and they are calling each other. So I think that aspiration for toilet will get people toilets. What you need to do is to promote the awareness. And when a lot of people want to get toilet, the politician will use it as a election issue, and people will get toilet. So I think that drive the demand and the supply will come.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit more difficult than a phone. I saw in the documentary one of the girls in China, she was saying that, oh, we all need to be connected in this day and age, so a phone is important and it's not as expensive. But sanitation is a very big thing, right? You have to put down pipelines, infrastructure, toilets. There's a re-education of the community, uh, discarding of all these different things. It's just there's billions of dollars that need to be invested in some of these places, and I'm assuming some of these are more rural, so maybe further away. Maybe they need to use new technologies, like maybe some of the stuff that the Gates Foundation is working on. It's more
Although
like
I think that
right?
the off-grid toilet doesn't need long pipelines. They can be treated on site, and it can be very cheap. And a house toilet could cost anything from $100 to $300, and you can have a nice big house with with
Really?
a, a simple twin pit toilet treatment by composting toilet. So you do not need this big infrastructure investment if you are living in the village. In fact, you can recycle it into fertilizer after it's dry. So there's a lot of technology that can make people afford to have a toilet, but because they are used to not having toilet, they need to be trained to have toilets. You know, the way to make them have toilet is jealousy. Get some people in the village to have a toilet and brag about it, and soon everybody will have to have a toilet because they can't stand other people looking down on them. So I think this is markets. You have to use those kind of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Have you seen that work in certain
Yeah,
places?
works wonders. When the whole village don't have toilet, nobody cares. And when there's a trend, it's almost like a fashion that wow, people are starting to have toilet, and more people have toilet, and we don't have them. They're laughing at us now, and then suddenly it's like cell phone. So fashion would change things faster than rationality, and you don't have to donate money. You just have to make them want to have toilet.
So I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Do you think entrepreneurs should focus more of their efforts on social impact work versus trying to build the next Uber or Airbnb?
I think that all these startups, when they have VC, venture capitalists, and all the money goes to those investors, it's not fair. Can you imagine you driving an Uber and you have to pay 30 cents to a dollar to Uber? Why should you do that? It's just an app. And so I think we should create platform cooperatives so that the drivers owns the app, not Uber, not Lyft, but the drivers themselves owns the app. And you just need to collect very little money, maybe 2 cents, and you would have enough money to employ the manager, the engineers to service the app and make sure everything is working. You don't need to give money to the VC and do all these promotions and everything. I think that if we are able to distribute wealth, every taxi driver can join and be a cooperative. The world should think about communities rather than becoming a unicorn and a billionaire. You know what is the true definition of a billionaire? A billionaire should be a person who improved the life of a billion people. No need to have money. Just go and improve life of other people. I think that should be the real measurement, because if you have money, nothing to do with anybody else. It's just you keep your money. Whereas if you do good, everybody lives gets better. I think that should be the way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely making people have a better life is a lofty goal. But I think a distribution of wealth starts to toe the line with communism and socialism, and that's not something that'll work very well in the U.S. And I think most places where at least people have gathered wealth over generations. And as far as, don't you think that will incentivize VCs to invest if they can't recoup the investment 10, 20, 30, 50, 100x, whatever it is? And won't that de-incentivize entrepreneurs from starting something if if an Uber driver is getting a tiny percentage of the shares, they're not going to be able to.
It's not fair. You see, about 80 billionaire owns half of all the money in the world. What kind of
Plus, Uber is not even. They're not even. What's the word?
profitable?
Profitable. Yeah.
They're not profitable, but who is profitable? The owner, the shareholders, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think all these people are doing what's called a Ponzi scheme. They're just out there to fleece money. I think everything we do, let's have good intention. And if we're out there to, you think socialism is not good? Redistribution of wealth is not good? I tell you, capitalism has been helpful for a while. But look at today's capitalism. It's so extreme that it creates poverty. It creates homelessness.
So is communism. If you look at North Korea, if you look at some of the communist countries, if you look at a one-party state like China and other countries, they haven't done very well for themselves. Cuba,
Who say
etc.
they haven't done very well? I don't know about North Korea. Probably they didn't do very well. But China got 700 million people out of poverty. If you go to China today, it's more modern than America. You do the subway in New York, and on a rainy day, all the rain is coming down onto the track. What kind of a historic system is that? It's all broken. All the infrastructure in America is broken. You go to Kennedy Airport, you go to all these airports in America, they looks like historic broken cities. You go to India, New Delhi Airport, you're shocked. They are so modern. So the West is just living in the past. Yes, in the past, America is quite advanced, but now you should travel. And if you start to travel, you realize that you are shocked because even technology, the East is caught up. So if you look at the direction, the Western Hemisphere has reached its development stage and is now entering the age of decadence. It's just printing money and no more building the future. Only a few companies are very, very high tech in Silicon Valley and in Seattle or some, but the majority of America is just living on a Ponzi scheme. You're just doing quantitative easing, printing another few $1 trillion and another few $1 trillion. They come to a point nobody wants to buy the US dollar, right? Productivity, you have to produce something in order to earn a decent life. You cannot keep on printing money. So I think that the pendulum of capitalism has overswung. When it was in the mid-range, it's actually very good. And now it's extreme. It is now creating a very poor distribution of wealth. Now you think about China, it was a communist country. Everything don't work. Then what did they do? They turned capitalist. And now they got people out of poverty. And then what will happen? Eventually, you will have a lot of ultra rich, just like America, and then it has to swing back again. So the pendulum in the mid range, whether it's socialism or communism or capitalism, in the mid range, it works. In the extreme, both doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I could, I agree with some and I don't agree with a few other things, but I do agree that democracy, capitalism with a touch of socialism, like Scandinavian countries, with
Yes.
free healthcare, like Canada, like Israel, like some other countries in Europe,
Yes.
those countries tend to do better. I don't think everything should be for profit, especially
Yeah.
things like education, things like healthcare. Those things should not come at a cost. So yeah, with that I agree. With some of the other stuff, we'll agree to disagree. But with
You
that,
see, you cannot think in black and white. You see, when you say America has democracy, it doesn't. I mean, why is the black life not worth anything? I mean,
if that's true.
democracy doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
Democracy means everybody have a right, and
Well,
it's
everyone has the same right here.
equal.
Everyone has a right to vote. Everyone has a right to do everything. If there are aspects of the country that obviously exhibit some bigotry, some racism, but I think overall, if you're in the U.S., I think you're doing fairly well. Just if you look at comparatively to the rest of the world. If you go to China, right, they have re-education camps for Uyghurs, right? The Muslim
Yeah, you just reading some stuff. Take
that
the
doesn't
full
exist.
picture. No, they have, and America is the biggest friend of Saudi Arabia for chopping off head on weekends, beheading, execution, and America says Saudi Arabia is doing the right thing because this is my best friend. He buys so much weapons. So what kind of promoter of democracy says not really? And if you are very good
All
democracy,
interest. It's all
why
interest.
did you end up choosing a crazy guy to be the president? If
No, I
if
don't know. I don't know. That's
if
a good
you
question. I don't know.
if
I have no
you
idea.
have a efficient democracy, you know what will happen? Good people will come up. But you have only two parties. You don't
Yeah.
even have three parties. How could
No,
you have a
100%.
democracy?
I,
Look at Nordic country, in Scandinavia,
yeah.
the person who is leading the country looks very ordinary. He doesn't feel like he's a god or something like that. He's not an emperor, he's just a normal person. And this is a mature democracy. If you want to follow the Nordic countries, the Norway, the Sweden, Denmark, Finland. These
I
are
think
good countries.
these are great countries. Yeah. I think they're obviously very different. They're much smaller countries. They don't have a lot of the same, it's a different culture. There's a lot of different things that are different. I never chose Trump. I would never choose Trump. I can't wait to get Trump out of office. I don't want to get too much into politics because politics, I feel like, is the
So I just
dirtiest.
want to prove to you that you don't really have democracy. Right? Everything you talk about,
No, no.
democracy. But if you are such a democratic country, you can't possibly have an idiot as a president.
I mean, it's complicated. Whoever gets into power, obviously, like the problem is it's not the popular vote that wins, right? Like Hillary still has 3 more million votes, but the way
So
it's
how
split up,
can that be democracy if the popular vote don't give you the president?
that's just the way the system.
Something is
I didn't
wrong,
say it.
right?
It's also. I agree with you 100% that two parties can in no way, in shape, or form represent 300 plus million people. You have to have more parties. I don't agree with either party. I don't agree with the left. I don't agree with
I
the right.
tell you another thing.
There's
The,
no party that
the
I.
Americans don't even want to go to vote. And if you don't want to go to vote, how could you have a democracy?
They, yeah. I mean, again, they want to vote. They want to vote by. The problem is everything is partisan right now. That is I think the biggest issue. I think if one side says I agree with this, the other side knee jerk reaction is to say I don't agree with it, and I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest problem right now.
So the thing to know is that
there's no middle ground for them to have a conversation like this one we're having right now. Like if there were more formats, even like how they debate on the news, it's just made for headlines. It's not made for an actual conversation and for people to come out of it saying, you know what, wow, I really learned something out of this. And I think that's really unfortunate. It doesn't exist anymore.
yeah. So that's why you have to say and be honest to yourself, your democracy is not working. Go copy the Nordic state democracy and learn from them.
I wish
That's
they would.
working.
Yeah, I wish they would. I just don't know if I don't think it's that easy to get a country that's super divided right now on every subject. They're super divided right now, and just say, hey, 320 or 30 million people, go copy a country or a few countries of a few million people. I just in theory, that's a great idea. I would love that to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening. I don't think it's realistic, especially not right now, especially not with this president.
Yeah, I hope. But maybe he wins again, and I
I hope
really
not.
can't.
I hope
I
not.
shake
Let's
my
stay
head.
optimistic. So let's talk a little bit about the media. I know I know you don't have too much more time, so I want to
Okay,
talk a little
7 minutes. Yes. Okay.
bit. Yeah, they say I know every minute is important for you. You're counting the minutes.
Yeah.
So you understand the media very well. I mean, you know how to gain attention from them, and you come up with really funny campaigns or catchy campaigns. You know, how do you come up with those?
So basically, you just keep thinking about toilets every day, and all the ideas will come, especially when you're in the toilet, of course, right?
Yeah,
So, so if you want to achieve something, the whole world will conspire to work with you to make it happen. And this book, The Alchemist by
that's a good book. Yeah,
Coelho, I think is really, really true because what I experience is that if you really want to do something good, everybody joins in. And it doesn't cost money. It just unite people's effort together. And I think through the last 23 years where I've been working for free for 23 years. I don't earn a single cent. I retired when I was 40, now I'm 63. And I think that this journey has been very, very good. And I encourage people to find something which can make their community better and go and do it because you will enjoy your life so much when you start to give love. Love is such a thing that if you give, you get more. But you're not giving because you hope somebody do something in return. No need. The act of helping others and doing something which make you feel good is a reward instantly itself. So keep on doing that and your body will be healthy. If you keep on focusing on how to grab from other people and to become selfish, you eventually get sick because the toxicity in your body, it builds up, it accumulates. So be a free person, enjoy your life, love your family, love your friends, love your community, love your country, and love the whole planet. Don't start to divide to say we are Congress, we are this Democrat and you are Republican and you are communist and we are democracy. Come on, everybody goes to the toilet. We are all equal and we are all human beings. Don't go and kill Iraqis or Syrians and treat them as other people. They are flesh and blood like you. Don't discriminate black or white. Just live like everybody is human like you. And you will start to realize that you are humble and you're no more full of hatred and arrogance.
yeah. I think that's a good point to end on. Toilet is the uniter. Toilet unites us all, and I think the only thing I would add is that when certain people go in. I think power is intoxicating and more than anything else. And a lot of people in power tend to abuse that power. And that's globally. That doesn't happen only in certain countries or certain businesses, but globally, people tend to abuse power if they haven't, if it goes unchecked, if they just have it
Yeah.
um,
These are
for
weakness, you know. They are
as a
weak
weakness.
people. If
Yeah.
you abuse your power, you are a weak person because why would you want to impose and bully other people? You don't need to bully people if you are a person of love. If you are a person of fear, then you have to bully people because you are weak. So be strong, be loving, and be borderless. And enjoy your toilet every day. Thank you
like
very
Bruce,
much.
like Bruce Lee said, be like water. And
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really had a lot of fun. You're a really funny guy and you do amazing work. Where can people find you? Where can they donate or help if they want to?
Yeah, go to worldtoilet.org and you can message me as well. You go to internet, you will find how to contact me through the website, and my email is jacksim@worldtoilet.org, and you can email me as well. So you go to my Facebook, go everywhere. You will find a lot of videos, a lot of information on Google. Just Google Mr. Toilet and also watch the film Mr. Toilet, the world number 2 man on Amazon Prime. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Check it out, guys. It's been
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks
Bye
so much,
bye.
man. Take care.